Today we have an incredible story that you won't believe. A single rancher riding through a frozen wilderness discovers two Apache sisters shivering in the snow, and what happens next will shock you. They both want to be his wives. You're about to witness courage, survival, and an unexpected twist of fate that changes their lives forever. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, like this video, and drop a comment telling us what you would do in their place. Let's dive right into this unbelievable story. The wind bit through the prairie like 1,000 tiny knives, carrying the scent of pine and frost. Jack Thompson, a lone rancher with calloused hands and a heart shaped by years of solitude, rode along the snow-laden trails, checking fences and counting his livestock. The day had started like any other, but there was something in the air, a subtle shift in the cold, a flicker in the snow that made his instincts tense. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted two tiny shapes huddled together, barely visible against the blinding whiteness. They were girls, frozen and fragile, trembling like the last leaves on a winter branch. Jack's heart tightened, and without hesitation he dismounted, trudging through the thick snow toward them. Each step was a battle against the weight of the drifts and the howling wind, but the sight of their pale faces and chattering teeth drove him forward. He wrapped his large coat around the first girl, feeling her trembling body against his chest. "You're safe now," he whispered, though she could barely hear him over the storm. The second sister's small hands clutched at the snow, desperate and cold, and Jack's chest ached at their vulnerability. He lifted her gently, praying he could save them both before the snow claimed their lives. The cabin loomed in the distance like a sanctuary, smoke curling from its chimney. Jack carried the girls inside, laying them near the roaring fireplace, his breath heavy from exertion. He fetched blankets and water, speaking softly to coax warmth back into their frozen bodies. Minutes felt like hours as he watched their color slowly return, the faint flutter of eyelids, the shallow, uneven breaths. He knew they had been through unimaginable trauma, their wide eyes telling tales of loss, fear, and loneliness. Jack tended to them tirelessly, moving from one to the other, refusing to let fatigue or the chill touch his resolve. The snowstorm outside raged, but inside, a fragile bubble of safety had formed. When the sisters finally stirred, their eyes met his, wide and wary. They were Apache, their dark hair matted, their faces streaked with frostbite and dirt. Jack could feel their terror, the weight of lives nearly lost, and he knew he had to tread carefully. "You're safe now," he repeated more firmly, yet with gentleness, letting them know that no harm would come while he was near. They shivered violently, huddling together instinctively. Jack realized these girls were more than frightened wanderers. They were survivors, clinging to life and to each other, their bond forged by tragedy and desperation. He resolved to honor that bond, whatever it took. The following days were a delicate dance of care and trust. Jack fed them what little he had, taught them to warm themselves by the fire, and guided them through the basic tasks of ranch life. The sisters' initial fear slowly gave way to curiosity, their sharp eyes taking in the cabin, the horses, the sprawling landscape, and the quiet, enduring presence of Jack. He noticed their subtle gestures, how they supported one another, shared the smallest morsels of food, and whispered in the evenings when the fire crackled. Each moment revealed more about their personalities, one bold, one gentle, yet both fiercely loyal and both dependent on him in ways he had never experienced before. Jack found himself thinking about them even when he was alone, checking the fences or mending the barn roof. He realized he had never felt such responsibility, such a need to protect and nurture. Gianna, the elder sister, had a spark in her eyes, a quick wit and daring nature that reminded Jack of the wild horses he adored. Nayeli, the younger, had a quiet grace, a gentleness that soothed even the most troubled hearts, including Jack's own. They complemented each other, and together, they were slowly weaving themselves into the fabric of his life. He couldn't deny the stirrings of something deeper, an emotion he had long kept buried under calloused hands and stoic silence. The sisters began helping with chores, learning the rhythms of ranch life. Jack taught them how to feed the cattle, mend fences, and ride the horses safely. Each lesson brought small triumphs, smiles that broke the tension of past trauma, and laughter that filled the cabin in ways it had never known. Jack watched as their strength returned, impressed by their resilience and determination. Even in the bitter cold, they carried a spark of life, a refusal to surrender to the harshness of the world. Each day, the bond between the trio strengthened, founded not only on survival, but on mutual respect and growing affection. Nighttime brought moments of quiet reflection, where the fire cast long shadows across the cabin walls. Jack would sit with the sisters, listening to their whispered stories of childhood, their songs, and the traditions of their tribe. Gianna often spoke of adventures she had dreamed of taking, while Nayeli shared gentle tales of family and nature. Jack absorbed every word, feeling both admiration and a subtle pull at his heart. He realized he was no longer just their protector. He was their companion, their confidant, and perhaps unknowingly, someone they had begun to care for deeply. One evening, a snowstorm forced them all to stay inside, huddled near the fire. The cold outside was relentless, but inside, a warmth developed that had nothing to do with the flames. Jack noticed how the sisters lingered near him, their hands brushing accidentally but deliberately against his own. Their glances lingered, subtle yet meaningful, and he could feel the shift in the air. There was a tension, unspoken yet undeniable, that neither dared to name. Jack's mind raced with thoughts he hadn't anticipated, emotions that challenged his solitary way of life, yet he could not ignore the growing connection between them. Days turned into weeks, and the snow continued to fall, thick and unyielding, shaping the land and their lives. Jack and the sisters developed routines, a balance of work, care, and shared moments by the fire. He found himself laughing more, listening more, and feeling the stirrings of a heart he thought had grown immune to attachment. Gianna and Nayeli both displayed affection in subtle ways: a shared meal, a hand held briefly, a reassuring smile. Each gesture built layers of intimacy, forming bonds that were fragile yet incredibly strong. Born of shared survival and the recognition of mutual reliance. The turning point came one morning as the sun rose over the snow-covered prairie, casting golden light over the white expanse. Jack woke to find both sisters beside him, their expressions a mix of hope and fear. "Jack," Nayeli whispered, her voice trembling, "we want to stay with you. We don't want to be apart. Please let us." Gianna nodded silently, her eyes glistening, mirroring her sister's plea. Jack felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of astonishment, tenderness, and a deep responsibility he had never known. The realization hit him: they were no longer just girls he had saved. They were now entwined with his life in ways he could not ignore. Jack's mind raced with the implications, the complexity, and the uncharted territory of loving two sisters. He thought of the harsh winters, the dangers of the prairie, and the bond that had formed through mutual dependence. Yet, despite the challenges, he felt a sense of certainty. They had been brought together by fate, by survival, and by circumstance, and now their hearts had found a connection that could not easily be broken. Jack looked at their hopeful faces, and with a calm, steady voice he said, "Then we will face this together. We will make a life here, no matter what the world thinks. We have each other, and that is what matters most." With that, a new chapter began. The sisters' trust and affection gave Jack a renewed sense of purpose, and he embraced the responsibilities and emotions that came with it. Each day brought new challenges, yes, but also new joys: shared meals, laughter, songs by the fire, and the quiet moments that spoke louder than words ever could. The snowstorm that had once threatened to claim their lives had instead forged a bond unbreakable, a connection deeper than mere survival. Together they would face the wilderness, the cold, and the unknown, bound by loyalty, gratitude, and an unexpected love that promised to endure. Life on the ranch settled into a rhythm, each day blending work, care, and moments of quiet intimacy by the fire. Jack, Gianna, and Nayeli had become a family forged not by blood alone, but by trust, survival, and shared hardship. Jack found himself constantly aware of the sisters' presence, their laughter, their small gestures of affection that spoke volumes. Each morning brought chores and responsibilities, but also moments of connection: feeding the cattle, tending the garden, repairing fences, or riding across the snow-laden fields. The cold was harsh, yet their hearts had begun to feel warmth the winter could never touch. Gianna proved to be as daring as she was capable, fearlessly riding the fastest horses, helping Jack with tasks that required strength and courage. Nayeli, gentle and thoughtful, brought calm to the household. Her voice and touch soothing even the most restless animals. Together, they complemented each other perfectly, balancing strength and compassion, fire and serenity. Jack observed the subtle ways they interacted, how they supported and respected one another while simultaneously deepening their connection with him. It was a delicate harmony, a blend of affection, respect, and an unspoken love that grew with each passing day. As spring approached, the snow began to melt, revealing the rich earth beneath. The ranch, once draped in white, now glimmered with life, budding trees, green grass, and the promise of new beginnings. Jack introduced the sisters to planting crops, tending to the livestock, and managing supplies. They proved to be quick learners, and their enthusiasm infused the ranch with energy he had never known. Even the horses seemed to sense the difference, responding to their care with trust and obedience. Life was hard, yet fulfilling, and in these shared struggles, the bond between the three grew stronger, as if the trials of the past had prepared them for this moment of unity. One evening, Jack found himself sitting by the fireplace, watching the sisters laughing over a simple card game. The firelight flickered across their faces, highlighting the sparkle in Ayana's daring eyes and the serene glow of Nayeli's gentle smile. For the first time, Jack allowed himself to fully acknowledge the depth of his feelings. He realized he loved them, each in her own unique way, and he could not imagine a life without either of them. The thought of losing even one of them, of disrupting the harmony they had painstakingly built, was unbearable. The challenge now was not just survival, it was navigating the complicated landscape of the heart. As the weeks passed, the sisters grew more confident in their roles on the ranch, and Jack grew more comfortable expressing his feelings. He began to understand the subtle language of their hearts, the way Yana's hand lingered on his arm when passing by, the way Nayeli's gaze held his during quiet moments. Their love was not possessive, but sharing and inclusive, built on trust and mutual respect. Jack realized that the unconventional nature of their relationship was less important than the bond itself. Together, they had created something rare, a home where love was not defined by rules, but by loyalty, care, and shared devotion. One morning, a rider arrived at the ranch, breathless and urgent. Word had spread of the single rancher and the two Apache sisters, and curiosity had drawn neighbors to the remote homestead. Jack greeted the rider cautiously, unsure of what news or challenges might follow. The rider spoke of harsh judgment from townsfolk, whispers of scandal, and disbelief at the unusual arrangement. Jack listened, feeling a mix of frustration and resolve. He knew that the world outside would not understand their bond, but that did not matter. Within the walls of his cabin, with the sisters by his side, he had found peace, purpose, and a love stronger than any criticism. Challenge was not only external. Both sisters, though deeply connected, sometimes struggled with jealousy or insecurity, natural emotions that arose from shared affection. Jack navigated these moments with patience and care, ensuring that neither felt neglected or less loved. Conversations by the fire became opportunities to express fears, hopes, and dreams. Through honesty and vulnerability, they built a trust deeper than mere dependence, a love that acknowledged individuality while celebrating union. Each conflict resolved strengthened the trio, teaching them compromise, understanding, and the importance of communication, lessons that extended far beyond survival skills on the prairie. Summer approached, the ranch flourished, and so did their lives. Fields were planted with vegetables and grain, the cattle were thriving, and the cabin felt warm not just from the fire, but from the laughter and closeness of the household. Jack often marveled at how two strangers, once shivering in the snow, had become the center of his life, filling his world with light and love. Yana and Nayeli both took pride in their contributions, whether raising animals, tending gardens, or crafting items for the home. Their bond was not static. It evolved with each passing day, growing stronger, richer, and more resilient to the pressures of the outside world. One afternoon, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jack decided it was time for a gesture that would solidify their bond. He called the sisters to sit by the river that ran near the edge of the ranch. The gentle sound of flowing water mingled with birdsong and the rustle of leaves in the wind. He spoke from the heart, expressing gratitude for their presence, admiration for their courage, and the depth of his love. Gianna and Nayeli listened silently, tears glistening in their eyes, feeling the weight of the words and the promise contained within them. Together, Jack said, voice steady yet tender, we have survived storms, cold, and fear. We have built a life where each of us matters, where each of us is loved. I promise to care for both of you, to honor and protect you, and to face whatever comes side by side. If we stay together, nothing will break the bond we've formed." The sisters embraced him, one on each side, hearts beating in unison. At that moment, all doubts, fears, and harsh memories melted away, replaced by the certainty of love, commitment, and unity. The years that followed were filled with both hardship and joy. Winters remained cold, summer sun burned the fields, and storms occasionally threatened the ranch, but the trio faced everything together. They celebrated victories, mourned losses, and adapted to challenges with resilience and teamwork. The cabin echoed with laughter, music, and stories of past struggles that had shaped them. Jack, Ayana, and Nayeli found beauty in routine, strength in companionship, and fulfillment in a shared life that had begun with a simple act of rescue in the snow. Neighbors slowly accepted their unconventional family, drawn by the obvious love and dedication that permeated the ranch. Stories of the single rancher and two Apache sisters spread across the county, inspiring awe, curiosity, and respect. Jack never sought approval, only the contentment of a life well lived with the sisters who had become his heart. Together, they faced adversity, loved openly, and created a legacy rooted in loyalty, courage, and the knowledge that family is defined not by convention, but by the bonds of the heart. Jack often reflected on the day he found them shivering in the snow, realizing how much had changed. The harsh winter that had threatened to claim their lives had instead brought them together, forging a connection stronger than any cold or danger. Gianna and Nayeli, once vulnerable and frightened, had become partners, companions, and the center of his world. Their love was unconventional, yet true, and it had transformed all their lives, proving that the heart's capacity for connection often exceeds what the mind can comprehend. In the quiet moments, as snow melted into spring rivers and fields ripened under the summer sun, Jack, Ayana, and Nayeli would sit together, watching the land they had nurtured, listening to the sounds of life they had helped cultivate. They knew challenges would continue, that outsiders might judge, and that the wilderness always demanded respect. Yet they also knew they were united, a family bound by love, survival, and choice. No matter what storms came, they would face them together, their hearts intertwined, a testament to courage, compassion, and the unexpected miracles of the human spirit. And so the story of a single rancher who found two Apache sisters frozen in the snow ended not in tragedy, but in triumph, love, and unity. Through danger, hardship, and fear, they had discovered something rare and profound: a home, a family, and a life built on trust, respect, and the power of hearts willing to love beyond convention. Their story became legend, a tale whispered across the plains, proving that even in the harshest winters, warmth, hope, and love can bloom, transforming lives forever.